How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jason, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at something I've wanted to talk about for a long time on the channel, and that is talking about players in the CFL that went to famous U.S. colleges. And today, we're going to start with the SEC because it is the heart of college football country. We're going to be doing other conferences after that, but wanted to start with the SEC because it is the most important conference in college football. And unfortunately, some of these schools don't have the most players to choose from in terms of ones that are actually active in the CFL. So for some of these schools, I've actually went back and seen did anybody really make an impact from these schools in recent memory if they're not currently playing in the league today. And then if not, I looked at historical examples of players that went to that school that played in the CFL. So with that said, let's get started with today's list. So we're going to go in alphabetical order here, starting with Alabama, the Crimson Tide. Not really an active player currently in the CFL, but one that made an impact recent memory here was running back slash kick returner Christian Jones, who played from 2017 to 2019. Never really was a star in the league, but was a very good kick returner. Next, with the Arkansas Razorbacks, we have wide receiver Keon Hatcher of the BC Lions, who really broke out last year with 18 games played, 70 receptions for 1,043 yards and 5 touchdowns. Really a great season last year from Hatcher and really representing the Razorbacks well in the CFL. And next, moving on to Auburn, there's actually quite a few players here that are notable in the CFL, such as Darvin Adams, Duke Williams, but most famously, I would have to say it is defensive back Nick Marshall, who played quarterback at Auburn, believe it or not. He's been a very successful defensive back in the CFL, albeit a controversial one. Guy that's really criticized for maybe giving up too many big plays at times, but he is a playmaker on that back end and has been a really good player at the CFL level with Saskatchewan. Now moving on to Florida. Florida's best player in the CFL currently is Luchez Purifoy, defensive back for the Edmonton Elks. Just a Swiss Army knife type of player, can play all over the field and played his collegiate career, like I said, with the Florida Gators. Some other notable guys that have played in recent memory from Florida in the CFL. Boshawn Joseph of the Hamilton Tiger Cats came over last year, played in a few games. And then Matt Elam, who was a former first-round pick of the Baltimore Ravens a while back. He's played a few seasons in the CFL here or there, but Purifoy, the most notable guy from Florida. Now moving on to the Georgia Bulldogs, and there's a couple of active players currently in the CFL. You have Terry Godwin, wide receiver for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, but most famously you have defensive back Quincy Mosier of the BC Lions, a safety who broke into the starting lineup early last year, had some injury troubles, but is looking promising to start his CFL career. I believe he's only 28 years old, so I'm excited to see what he does in the future in the CFL, representing Georgia. And then looking at Kentucky, the most famous and only active player currently that I could find in the CFL from Kentucky, representing the Wildcats, is defensive tackle Micah Johnson, who has over 125 games played in the CFL to go along with 54 career sacks. He's had a great career, multiple-time All-Star in this league, and been a great player ever since coming to the CFL. Then looking at LSU, not really an active player that's currently making a difference in the CFL. I don't believe there's even one on an active roster that I could find. But one good historical example here is offensive lineman Peter Diakowski, who played for the Hamilton Tiger Cats for 10 seasons, 166 career games played. Actually is a Canadian guy, but went down to LSU for school. So really good career up there in the CFL for the former Tiger. And then looking at Mississippi State, there's a couple of options here. But most famously, you have to go with defensive back Jamal Peters, who just recently signed in the NFL with the Atlanta Falcons, I do believe. He had an excellent season last year with the Toronto Argonauts. You also have quarterback Tommy Stevens that is from there as well, who's a backup quarterback for the Calgary Stampeders. Maybe he starts in the CFL one day. He also went to Penn State, so it's worth noting there. But Peters, probably the most notable guy to impact the CFL from Mississippi State in recent memory. Next, let's take a look at the Missouri Tigers, and the most notable guy that has played in recent memory that I could find is defensive end Shane Ray, who was a first-round pick of the Denver Broncos back in the day, was on that Super Bowl winning Broncos team before falling into the league because of injuries and whatnot. And that's really followed him to the CFL. Unfortunately, has not been able to stay on the field in the 2 years that he's been here. But last year when he was on the field, when he played 6 or 7 games or so, he actually was a pretty impactful player. But we'll see if he returns to the CFL going forward. He's currently a free agent. But Ray, a notable Missouri Tiger to play in the CFL in recent memory. Ole Miss, quite a few options here as well, including quarterback Jeremiah Mazzoli, who played 1 year there after transferring from Oregon during his college career. But the most notable guy here has to be quarterback Chad Kelly, who's now scheduled to be the starting quarterback for the Toronto Argonauts. We'll see how he does, but it's going to be a guy that's very featured, and hopefully, if he succeeds, this is a guy that the CFL really can market going forward, and be a guy that could connect with college football fans. Another guy that's also went to Ole Miss was defensive tackle Ted Laurent of the Hamilton Tiger Cats. He's played 10 years in the CFL with the Tiger Cats, had a really great and stable career as a Canadian playing up here. But I'm going to go with Kelly as the most notable guy here just because of the name recognition value for him and what he was able to accomplish down south during his college career. And then next, moving on to South Carolina, only the one guy that's currently active in the CFL, and that is running back Tavian Feaster of the BC Lions, may actually get an opportunity to fight for playing time in that backfield next season. Has kicked around with a couple of different teams the past couple of years with Montreal, and I believe he was with BC last year as well. So we'll see if Feaster has a bigger role. He also played collegiately at Clemson before finishing his career at South Carolina, but I'm going to include him with South Carolina for this video. Now moving on to the Tennessee Volunteers. They have one active player in the CFL, and that is Kenneth George, who signed this offseason. We'll see what happens with him. But another notable guy that has played in recent memory was first-round pick, or former first-round pick, Jonathan Kongbo of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, who has now went on to the Denver Broncos of the NFL, where he has cracked the active roster a couple of times. Excited to see what he does down south, and representing the Tennessee Volunteers well, and was never really a super productive player in the CFL. They really had a stacked defensive line, still a really stacked defensive line over there in Winnipeg, but at the end of the day, Kongbo earned himself an NFL opportunity from playing in the CFL, so that's pretty impressive. And then moving on to Texas A&M, the most famous guy here is wide receiver Darrell Walker, who first played a couple years at a community college before transferring to Texas A&M and playing a couple of seasons there. Most interesting enough, when I was doing research for this video, he was actually the last guy to catch a touchdown pass from Johnny Manziel at Texas A&M, so an interesting connection there. Walker's had a very successful CFL career, been on a lot of really good teams, and in recent memory has kind of been on the decline here, but he's had a long career here in the CFL and has been nothing short of a success. Now rounding out today's video with the Vanderbilt Commodores, and unfortunately not really an active player that has played a lot of CFL games currently, but there was a guy that signed this offseason, and that was wide receiver Kalesia Lipscomb, who signed with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. He played 4 years at Vanderbilt, so we'll see if he makes an impact on a CFL roster. But at the end of the day, those are just some guys that played in the SEC that are currently playing or have played in the CFL. You guys will have to let me know if I missed anybody down in the comment section. It's very possible that I did. It was not just one place I could look to find the names for all these schools, but you guys will have to let me know if I missed anybody and if anyone fell through the cracks here. But with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.